Hi everyone, this is Miss Katie from Rockland Public Library and welcome to Wednesday Read Alouds. Today we are going to be reading Extra Yarn, which is by Mac Barnett, illustrated by John Clausen. All right, let's begin. On a cold afternoon in a cold little town, where everywhere you looked was either white as snow or black as soot from chimneys, Annabelle found a box filled with yarn of every color. There's Annabelle, and there's her little dog. So she went home and knit herself a sweater. And when Annabelle was done, she had some extra yarn. So she knit a sweater for Mars, too. There he is. And there was still extra yarn. And when Annabelle and Mars went for a walk, Nate pointed and laughed and said, "You two look ridiculous." "You're just jealous," said Annabelle. "No, I'm not," said Nate. But it turned out he was. And look, he and his dog both get sweaters too. And even after she made a sweater for Nate and his dog, and herself and for Mars, she still had extra yarn. At school, Annabelle's classmates could not stop talking about her sweater. "Quiet!" shouted Mr. Norman. "Quiet, everyone! Annabelle, that sweater of yours is terribly distracting. I cannot teach while everyone is turning around to look at you." "Then I'll knit one for everyone," said Annabelle, "so they won't have to turn around." "Impossible," said Mr. Norman. "You can't." But it turned out she could. And she did. Even one for Mr. Norman. And when she was done, Annabelle still had extra yarn. So she knit sweaters for her mom and dad, and Mr. Pendleton, and Mrs. Pendleton, and for Dr. Palmer, and for little Louis. She made sweaters for everyone, except Mr. Crabtree, who never wore sweaters or even long pants, and who would stand in his shorts in the snow up to his knees. That silly guy. He would stand in the snow up to his knees. "No sweater for me, thanks," said Mr. Crabtree. So she made Mr. Crabtree a hat. And even then, Annabelle still had extra yarn. What do you think's going on with this yarn? That's an awful lot of yarn. Think it might be magic? She made sweaters for all the dogs and all the cats and all the other animals too. Soon, people thought, soon Annabelle would run out of yarn. But it turned out she didn't. So Annabelle made sweaters for things that don't even wear sweaters. Can you see all these sweaters over here? Can you see what has a sweater that doesn't usually have a sweater? You can see a birdhouse and a bird and a mailbox. And what about this? What's wearing a sweater here? Things had begun to change in that little town. It started off with everything being white and black, but look at all of the color now and all of the sweaters. If you could put a sweater on anything, what would you put it on? News spread about this remarkable girl who never ran out of yarn, and people came to visit from all around the world to see all the sweaters and to shake Annabelle's hand. One day, an archduke, there he is, an archduke who was very fond of clothes, sailed across the sea and demanded to see Annabelle.
Little girl, said the Archduke, I would like to buy this ridiculous box of yarn, and I am willing to offer you $1 million.
No, thank you, said Annabelle, who was knitting a sweater for a pickup truck.
The Archduke's mustache twitched. $2 million, then, he said.
Annabelle shook her head. No, thanks.
$10 million, shouted the Archduke. Take it or leave it.
Leave it, said Annabelle. I won't sell the yarn. And she didn't. So that night, the Archduke hired 3 robbers to break into Annabelle's house, and they stole the yarn, they stole the box, and took it to the Archduke, who set off across the snow and sailed over the sea. There it is, floating away. Back to his castle, the Archduke put on his favorite song and sat in his best chair. Then he took out the box, and he lifted the lid, and he looked inside. And you see, what's inside the box? His mustache quivered. It shivered. It trembled. The Archduke hurled the box out the window and shouted, "Little girl, I curse you and your family's cursed. You will never be happy again." But here goes the box, sailing across the water. But look, did you find it? There it is, washing up on shore. But it turned out that she was. And look, there she is, still knitting away. What did she knit this time? She knit a sweater on a tree. And you can actually see those around. Some people do knit sweaters for trees. There she goes. What do you think was going on with that pile of yarn? Do you think it was magic? Do you think maybe she was magic? Do you think she ever ran out of yarn? What might she put a sweater on next? Maybe the road? Stoplights? Can you think of something else? Sidewalks and animals and trees and roofs. Just so many things that can have sweaters. Well, I hope you enjoyed the story today. The story was extra yarn, and it was nice getting a chance to read to you. I will see you next Wednesday at 10:30. I miss you all, and have a great day. Bye-bye.